There are many things people don't do correctly with sleight of mouth, and there are very smart ways of using it that many people don't think about when they first read that in the book. Because in the end, it is not just about the words, what you say, it is also about how you say them and how long do you wait for the other person to express their concerns and disagreements and opinions before you use a sleight of mouth on them. We are going to see a small extract from a movie where a conversation happens between a billionaire, basically somebody who has been finding a pyramid down below the ice at like 600 meters below the ice level, and they think it is something that nobody on Earth has ever seen, so they want to dig in there and figure out what they can learn and find. And there is that lady who is the one running the expedition and whose goal is to make sure that everyone comes down alive and comes back alive.
There's no room for sick men on this expedition.
My doctors tell me the worst is behind me.
You're not a very good liar, Mr. Wayland. Stay on the ship. We'll update you at the top of every hour.
So the first thing we can talk about here is the cause and effect structure she is using in her statement, which is the first thing to elaborate when you want to develop your skills in understanding sleight of mouth and using them covertly, overtly, or no matter how you want to use them. It is about deconstructing what people say into cause and effect. At some point this becomes intuitive, maybe it already is for you if you have been practicing language skills in any sort of way. So she says, you're sick, therefore you can't come with us because there is no place for a sick man in that hole below this surface.
You know, when you get sick, you think about your life and how you're going to be remembered. You know what I realize will happen when I go? 10% fall in share prices, maybe 12. That's it.
And the first thing the gentleman is using here is what we might refer to as a consequence pattern. A consequence pattern is appealing to something that will happen later in time. It is a very common way of redirecting the conversation or reframing any sort of thoughts you don't like during an interaction. He says, you know, when I will leave this world, and I'm close to being dead at this point, when I will leave, I will only bring with me memories, souvenirs, and so far the memories I have are just the ones of a man who did nothing but playing with stocks all his life and making more money, but it was pretty much meaningless to me. What I want is to live with something really meaningful. It is actually what I was suggesting in that video when you want to use a sleight of mouth the very beginning. Once you have clearly understood what is the main belief your interlocutor is coming up with, to use the intention pattern and the consequence pattern. Those are really definitely the best ones to use on a first entry level. It will be enough to reframe most conversations, provided you have enough rapport with the person in front of you. If you want to figure out all of that, by the way, how to use what, at which time, in which structure, you have the document down below, which will teach you specifically what to use based on where you are, your level, and based on who is in front of you. And let's come back to the conversation here at hand.
I've heard this speech before. My dad broke his leg 700 feet from the summit of Mount Rainier. He was like you. He wouldn't go back or let us stop. We reached the top, and he opened a bottle of champagne. I had my first drink with my dad at 14,400 feet. On the way down, he developed a blood clot in his leg that traveled to his lung. He suffered for 4 hours before dying 20 minutes from the base.
So this is a pretty clever thing to do here, to use. She is using a metaphor, if you hadn't understand already. A metaphor is caressing the mind of the person. It is not confrontational. Let's even say this is the least confrontational way of using sleight of mouth, because it is just showing the person there is an alternative to their way of thinking without forcing. And I use that a lot of times in my therapy sessions with clients. I use examples from my real life of how I have been able to solve this problem or that problem, which gives them an example of how can I change myself, because I have been using either self-hypnosis or NLP, or literally a sleight of mouth with myself, writing down my concerns and playing with my thoughts on the matter, and I have been able to reframe many problems and limitations in myself. So I tell those stories with people in front of me, and many times, if not all the time, they are like eyes wide open. Oh, really? Because now they have a parallel with their situation, with something that looks like what they are experiencing, and that led to a positive conclusion, to a solution, basically, to a positive outcome. So now they have hope. Here she is trying to make him understand that his place is not down below, by explaining to him that his dad was exactly like him, like close to the same behavior, obsessive behavior, and this is what caused his death. However, our friend the billionaire here is going to reframe one last time, and this time she will agree with what he just said.
You think that's the last thing your dad remembers? The pain? Or drinking champagne with his daughter 14,000 feet in the air? I need this.
The cleverest thing in that example here is that he has used exactly her metaphor. He has used her metaphor instead of arguing with, oh, your dad is your dad, I am different, there is nothing in common. That would be the least effective way of arguing, of reframing, because it is disrespecting the thing the person just said. He's, first of all, letting her express her concerns deeply, thoroughly. She has time to finish her argument, her sentence, which most of you guys watching this I know are not doing, or not enough. Many times during an argument or a verbal confrontation, people try to interrupt each other instead of letting each other speak. Whereas if you let each other speak, if you let the other person speak, first of all, they will reciprocate much more easily because of basic matching and mirroring that happens among human beings in general. They will reciprocate, and also they will disrespect your ideas much less if you have been respecting theirs first. So he is not interrupting or disrespecting or refuting what she said. He has been using her metaphor. He is penetrating somehow her inner world by using her argument and redirecting the outcome. So what he did might be called another outcome according to that model, where he said, do you think the best memory of your dad is the one of, you know, dying and all of the, like dying in bad circumstances? Or do you think his last best memory was the one of drinking with his daughter just before death? So the another outcome pattern here is used as the goal is not to remain alive, because this is her outcome. The goal is to leave Earth with the best memories ever. And he has framed that as a question, which is, according to me, the best way ever to use a sleight of mouth, to use questions, open-ended questions, or just questions in general, instead of imposing a frame on people, because many times they will resist if you try to impose something, but if you ask a question, they will resist much less, and if you have been listening for their opinions and concerns before, even less resistance. And from there she agrees. As you can see, if you're watching the movie, I'm not spoiling what happens. It ends up pretty bad because it is a horror movie anyway, but it happens. He goes with her along in the hole and he discovers the pyramid and all of those marvelous things and all those shitty aliens. But this is not the point. He has been succeeding with his goal of owning the frame in this situation while respecting people around, while respecting the opinions and ideas of that lady. It is not about imposing, it is about respecting and redirecting opinions and thoughts instead of trying to brutalize people's mind with very strong language. It is not the point here. It is about subtle reframing, not brutal impose of any kind of verbal assault. And also completely off topic, but I thought this was a great scene, and the argument of that man, so it is all fictional, it's just a movie, but the statement of that man I think is really interesting, completely off topic, but according to a book called Die with Zero I read recently, which enumerates that the business of life is the acquisition of memories and not the acquisition of more financial assets forever, because when you will be on your deathbed, the only thing you will have left is the memories of the best moments you have lived with the people that mattered the most. If none of those memories existed, not much will be left after you died. Basically, this is completely off topic, but something I wanted to elaborate here, enumerate, talk about briefly. Anyway, if you want to master all of those skills and develop your abilities to use a sleight of mouth in real conversations around you, there is a document in the description, first link, called 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, which will show you exactly where you are and what to do next, which pattern to work the most on based on your skill set and based on what is your outcome with people you want to influence around you.